Hello to my truth and freedom-seeking friends. I am Peymon Mottahedeh, the president of Freedom Law School, which I started in 1996. In this presentation, I will show you that the original deep state is the IRS, going back to 1913. That's right. Many of you have seen how the FBI, the CIA, the DOJ, CDC, FDA, these are all a bunch of corrupted federal government agencies. Yes, but the original one that was corrupted and enslaved you and fed these crooked government agencies to become deep state is the IRS, and you can defund it legally and safely if you go to our website, freedomlawschool.org, and take the 7 steps to free yourself of IRS deception, IRS fear, robbery, and slavery. So let's get into the topic of the deep state IRS in 1913. But first, I must give you a little background in the U.S. Constitution and early taxation in America. I'm going to get into the topic as quickly as I can. You're going to find this very empowering to you, okay? So first, we're going to go to U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3, okay? Here, the Constitution that the Founding Fathers wrote, okay, puts a limitation on the federal government's powers to tax you. They were freedom lovers. They did not want the newly created federal government, which was an agent of the states, become your slave master. No way. They wouldn't allow for that. So that's why they wrote this in the Constitution, that representatives and direct tax representatives and direct taxes on people shall be apportioned, which means divided up among the several states which may be included within this union according to their respective numbers. Okay? Now, how was that applied? I'll show you the example how they did this in just a minute. But first, I want to show you another part of the U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 9, Clause 4, which states no capitation, which means head tax. Like decapitate to carve someone's head, that's a head tax, capitation, or direct tax, shall be laid unless in proportion to the census or enumeration, which means numbering, counting, hereafter before directed to be taken. They have to count how many people live in each state, and then divide up the tax amongst the states. Each state gets its share of direct taxes to, collect from each of its people, give it to the federal government, minus a 10% commission that the states get for the work of collecting the tax for the federal government. So here it is. You're going to see now, this is acts of the federal government, okay? This is one of the first acts Congress did in July of 1798. Look, John Adams was president. Thomas Jefferson was vice president of the United States, okay? And here's what this Tax Act said. This tax, we did what? It did a direct tax of $2 million shall be and hereby is laid upon the United States and apportioned to the states respectively in the manner of the following. Okay? Notice the term apportioned, right? It's an apportionment tax of $2 million. And here you see the states listed. To the state of New Hampshire, $77,705.36 and 2 mils. That's 1/10 of a cent. To the state of Massachusetts, $260,435.31 and 2 mils. You see all the original states, countries of this union are listed there, okay? A portion amongst them, how much each state must collect. And that was done in the early 1800s several times by Congress, correctly according to the U.S. Constitution. Okay? Now, there was a short direct tax during the War of the States, the so-called Civil War, which Lincoln did unconstitutionally among the states, but no one challenged it during the war because the South was broken away. It was a wartime. So eventually, in 1871, it got repealed, and that was just a short-term thing, lasted, less than 10 years. But other than that, here is a continuation of the whole income tax story, okay? The Congress tried to enact a law putting income tax in place, okay? And that law was overturned in Pollock versus Farmers Loan and Trust Company, okay? And what happened in this case, this was a landmark case in 1895, 5-4 decision, and the Supreme Court struck down the income tax imposed by the Wilson-Gorman Tariff Act for being an unapportioned direct tax. See, unapportioned direct taxes are not allowed by the Constitution. Okay, this is a well-known thing. Everybody admits, even most ignorant lawyers and CPAs admit that. Okay, however, they thought they changed things. They didn't. But they elected the first deep state president crook, Wilson. Okay, Wilson was an agent of the international banksters, president of Princeton, and he had sexual relations with another man's wife, and they used that to blackmail him. That's right. He was blackmailed and controlled. He was the first really fully controlled president America had, and he passed the Federal Reserve Act that created a gigantic trust of big banks that own our money system. He also tried to get ratified the 17th Amendment, which took the states' power to directly appoint the senators to represent the state's interests by having it become a people's vote instead, which money could buy instead. Okay. By the way, 17th Amendment was not ratified. And the 16th Amendment, which was also not ratified, but pretended to give Congress new power of taxation to tax you, the American people, without a need for an apportionment of the tax among the states or enumeration. So let's get into this, okay? So here is the 16th Amendment. The language of this amendment, which was not ratified, but that's okay. It doesn't really matter because it's irrelevant anyways. As you shall see, he says that Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source derived without apportionment among the several states and without regard to any census or enumeration. So, it looks like you don't have to worry about apportionment. You don't have to worry about doing any census or enumeration, counting how many people live in each state to be dividing up the tax. But guess what? That was all a ruse, a deception on the American people by the deep state that the international banksters owned at that time, the politicians, and the crooked Wilson. So, here is the Supreme Court. Don't believe me, folks? In Stanton versus Baltic Mining Company. Okay, came out in 1916. After a case called Bushaber versus Union Pacific Railroad, they both talked about the federal income tax. The Stanton court clearly said this, okay? By the previous ruling, the Bushaber case, it was settled that the provisions of the 16th Amendment of the Constitution conferred no new power of taxation. Whoa, wow! Huh! Look at that! You know, if 16th Amendment did not give the power to tax the people of the 50 states directly, which beforehand it didn't have, that means that Congress cannot tax the people of the 50 states after the 16th Amendment either. So, how are they taxing the American people? Oh, a loophole and deception of the Wilson deep state does the job. What they did was this. They used the U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, and another section I will show you. Okay, here, the Congress gives the federal government the power to exercise exclusive legislation or lawmaking in all cases whatsoever over such district not exceeding 10 miles square, which eventually became the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C., okay, as made by secession of particular states, and acceptance of Congress become the seat of the government of the United States, okay? So, and have same authority over any land or territory that the federal government has. Why? Because the number one reason for the federal government existence was to coordinate the states as military defensive units against England, which might try to take the states back by force, which probably it did in 1812. There was a war in 1812 between England and America. So they said you can do whatever you want in those lands to make sure these military places, are run efficiently and properly to protect the states, these new 13 countries in the Union, from the King of England taking us back as their slaves. Furthermore, in the Constitution, they added this also in Article 4, Section 3, Clause 2, which says, Congress shall have power to dispose of, make all needful rules and regulations, any and all rules and regulations not necessary, respecting the territory or other property belonging to the United States. Any territory, land, or anything belonging to the federal government, they can have any kind of rules and regulations they want for it. Wow, that is big. Just any rules and regulations. So, how does that go into practice? Well, in the case of Down versus Bidwell, which came out in 1901, that was the case they used and this principle to tax the people of the 50 states. Now, it's going to get a little bit digressed, but I'll come back to the point. Hang in there with me, okay? In this case, the court said that the island of Puerto Rico, which was taken in 1895 by the Spanish-American War from Spain, along with Philippines and Guam and some other lands. This was taken as U.S. territories. These were not Anglo-Saxon white European people. Did not speak English. Didn't have our heritage of freedom and common law. Okay, had no jury trial, things like that. They could not be becoming states, just like the continental United States all could and did become states eventually, right? So they remained territories of the federal government, like war prize of the federal government. And so a tax was done between Puerto Rico and places outside of Puerto Rico, and the Supreme Court said this, that the island of Puerto Rico is not a part of the United States. What? It was part of the United States, but not within that provision of the Constitution which declares that all duties, imposed, and excise taxes shall be uniform throughout the United States. So when it comes for taxing purposes, Puerto Rico is not part of the United States. What does that mean? Well, in Down versus Bidwell, the court had basically a convoluted decision of a majority and a minority that was against them. Here's a good summary of Downs versus Bidwell that is given to us by Wikipedia. Okay, it's a good summary, actually, okay? I don't like Wikipedia, but in this case, it's right on, okay? This was a 1901 case in which the U.S. Supreme Court decided that whether U.S. territories were subject to the provisions and protections of the U.S. Constitution. Wow. And they are not. That's right. We'll go a little bit further. Here's what the court says. The decision basically narrowly held that the Constitution does not necessarily apply to territories. Instead, U.S. Congress has jurisdiction or legal power to create law within the territories, right? In certain circumstances, particularly those dealing with revenue taxes, which would not be allowed by the Constitution for the U.S. states. Oh, yeah. So in other words, you could tax the territories and all the limitations on taxing power of the federal government do not apply whatsoever to Puerto Rico and other U.S. territories in Washington, D.C., naval bases, military bases, because those are just lands. But the federal government can do whatever it wants to its and its people, because at that land, that's the way the Constitution gives the government the power to do what they want in there. Right? Okay. Let's continue. Now, I will read you the minority decision, okay? With Justin Harlan, okay? The minority decision gave a very scathing response to what the majority said, okay? And here's what it said. This is going to be something that's going to relate to us in America now. The idea prevails with some indeed, as indeed it has expression in arguments at bar. That we have in this country substantially two national governments. Oh, two? One to be maintained under the Constitution, the Union States, with all its restrictions, and the other to be maintained by Congress, outside and independently of that instrument. Okay? That's Washington, D.C. and its territories like Puerto Rico. By exercising such powers as other nations of the earth are accustomed to. See? They recognize you're creating right now two different systems of laws. One for the Union States and one for D.C. and territories. Okay? Now, here is where it gets interesting more. They continue on saying that I take leave or I disagree to say that if the principles thus announced should ever receive the sanction of a majority of this court that it did, a radical and mischievous change in our system will result. Yep, and it has done exactly that. We will, in that event, pass from the era of constitutional liberty, guarded and protected by a written constitution, into an era of legislative absolutism, which means the legislature can write whatever laws it wants with no restriction. Okay? It will be an evil day for American liberty if the theory of a government outside the supreme law of the land finds lodgment in our constitutional jurisprudence. Yep. Because I tell you, folks, all the stuff they're doing, Medicare, Social Security, income taxes, Obamacare, all these things are written for D.C. and territories and its people, not the 50 states. Hold on, I'm going to get to that in just a minute. You're shocked to hear all this, but it's all true. So that's why you see here is the very first 1913 Act, Tariff Act of 1913, okay? And here in this law, they imposed an income tax, right? From on the net income arising or accruing from all sources, right? To every citizen of the United States and to every person residing in the United States, okay? And upon the entire net income from all property owned and of every business, trade, or profession carried on in the United States by the persons residing elsewhere. Yeah. And the word United States, we're going to come back to in just a minute. The tax was very low. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5%. Look, 1% tax was paid by someone who made over $20,000 back then. That would be about $2 million in today's money approximately. You'd pay only 1%. Let's put the camel's nose under the tent. Lay on the whole camel. We'll get in and take over the whole tent. Look at this. The 6% tax, just 6%, was if you made over $500,000. In today's money, that would be someone making over $50 million would only pay 6%. So, clearly, very few people were covered by this tax. The average person was not touched by it. Nobody thought about it, but they just assumed that it applies to them. Okay? Because the 16th Amendment was ratified. Yeah, it says the tax is constitutional in the Boucher case. But remember, Stanton case said, Stanton versus Baltic Mining Company said, did not give Congress any new taxing power. They could not tax you in the 50 states. So that's why you see this definitions of United States, the key terms, in the 1913 law. Here it is. Let's go on to definition of the term United States and state. Look at that shocking definition. That the word state or United States, when used in this section, shall be construed to include any territory of the United States, Alaska, which was a territory at the time, the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, and the Philippine Islands. Yeah, Philippines was part of the U.S. territory at the time, when such construction or interpretation is necessary to carry out its provisions. Whoa! Look at that! The deep state knew that they could not apply the income tax to the people of the 50 states. The international bankers want to tax directly on the people and not to have to go through the states to pay that, for the federal government to pay interest on the loans they're going to make out of thin air by fraud to the federal government. That's why they did it. The international banksters. That's the start of fraud on the American people. But who reads law books? Lawyers, most law is state law. Murder, rape, stealing, divorce, whatever. Federal law is a very narrow area. There are very few people who have any relation to federal laws. There are very few federal lawyers and federal judges. These were hidden in federal law books in plain sight. No one read it. No one that I know of put it out there. You've been deceived, people, when the tax was low. So, what do they do next? They needed another crook to the bidding of the international banksters. And that's Roosevelt. Before I get to Roosevelt, though, let me tell you about these definitions. In Ghoul versus Ghoul, the Supreme Court decided in 1979 a very clear thing about taxes. 9-0 tax case, here is what it said. These definitions I read to you are binding. That's like all there is to tax in the federal income tax of 1913. D.C. and its territories. Supreme Court says in the interpretation or understanding of statutes, laws, levying or imposing taxes. In imposing laws that, understanding laws that impose taxes, it is the established rule not to extend their provision of tax laws by implication or implying beyond the clear import of the language used, or to enlarge their operations so as to embrace matters not specifically pointed out. Something specifically not pointed out is not there. The 48 states back then were not in the definition of United States or states. So they were not there. Okay? And if you have any doubts, the Supreme Court says the tax laws, are construed or interpreted most strongly against the government's power to tax and in favor of the citizen being taxed. There's a well-established rule. Here's the other court cases the court refers to. Because taxation is theft. Theft must be minimal by government, must be very clear. Any doubt goes against the government's power to steal from you and make you a slave. Right? 9-0 tax case. So that's how you know that they knew what they were doing. They were using deception to make you slave, rob, and control you. And feed the deep state. They're going to, over years, build the FBI, the CIA, the DOJ, FDA, CDC, all of them. These federal agencies are going to be fed by making you a slave of the Washington, D.C. empire. Okay? Now we'll see how in the 1930s came this other crooked president, socialist Franklin Roosevelt. Okay? He gave the Federal Reserve much more powers, okay, and got us into World War II, okay? But before we get to that stuff, okay, in 1935, he introduced the Social Security tax, okay? Here it is income tax on employees, okay? Okay. Section 801, in addition to other taxes, there shall be levied, collected, and paid upon the income of every individual at tax equal to the following percentages of wages, okay? Okay. With respect to employment during the calendar years 1937, 38, 39, the rate shall be 1%. This was the very first Social Security tax. And it was, again, low, but gradually lifted, okay? Look at it. They already planned after 1948 to make it 3%. Now, of course, it's much higher than that. There's a tax on employees. It also a tax on employers. Similar language, okay? In addition, he tax on employees, right? Employers. In addition to other taxes, every employer shall pay an excise tax with respect to having an individual and his employee equal to the following percentage of wages, okay? With respect to employment during the calendar year 1937, 8 and 9, the rate shall be 1%. And here we are. By the time we get to 1949, it will be 3%. Now, this was the first time they're going to dupe employers to become agents of the federal government to steal from their employees like you. Okay? Here's where it gets more interesting. Okay? When they did that, oh, by the way, when they did this thing, the only people that they had to tax in these laws, okay, was federal government employee. That's right. The only people they could tax was federal government employees. Okay? And I'll show that to you in a little bit. This temporary tax, the victory tax on individuals, there was a collection and withholding also explained here, but it says that there shall be withheld, collected, and paid upon all wages of every person to the extent that such wages are includable in gross income at tax equal to 5% of the excess of each payment of such wages over the withholding deduction and not allowable on this part. Okay? That's been started, this tax collection withholding. And how about withholding agent? Who's the withholding agent? Your boss? You, the American people? Oh no. Very clear category of people, which is not over 99% of you. Look at this. Withholding agent, okay? The tax required to be withheld by the section 466 shall be collected by the person having the control of payment of such wages, but deducting such amount of such wages as when paid. Okay, but as used in this subsection, the term person includes, oh, who got to withhold? Oh, people got to withhold includes officers and employees of the United States or of a state. Oh, by the way, remember, the state means D.C. and its territories at the time, not the 50 states. They use the state of the United States, but by definition, it does not include the 50 states, right? They use this repetitious to deceive you, make you think they mean state. When you read the code, the language, it doesn't mean state. It is D.C. and territories only at that time still. Okay? Territory or any political subdivision thereof, or of the District of Columbia, or agency or instrumentality of any one of the foregoing. Yep. So basically, if you worked for the federal government as agency or officer, and if you employ somebody, that person you have to withhold from. It was a tax on federal government employees. But they didn't tell you about this. It was there in plain sight, the law, and you did not see it, and no one questioned this withholding tax in 1942, which led to eventually everybody getting used to being robbed by the employers. Employers now got used to stealing from you. Social Security, they were agents of the government, and income taxes. And that is the core power of the income tax, is employers have accepted, been duped and deceived, coerced, to become agents of the government to steal from wage earners. Let me tell you, you can stop stealing by your employer of your wages by going to our website, freedomlawschool.org. Yes, for free. And if you have any questions, call us. We'll guide you, help you at 813-444-4800. Now let's do the next chapter, the temporary income tax on individuals. Yep. Victory tax on individuals. Okay. This was done in 1942. Yep. The war with Japan and Germany, Italy. Okay. And back then, they said that there shall be levied and collected and paid for each taxable year, beginning after December 31 to 1942, a victory tax of 5%, right, upon the victory tax and income of every individual. Okay, that's when they started deceiving people to allow 5% stealing from the wages of them. The men were at war, husbands, brothers, and sons, and the wives, mothers, and sisters were working to support their husbands. Of course, they didn't mind having a little bit of withholding to support their husbands, sons, and brothers in the war for them to be alive and come back, right, safely. So here we go. In that tax, it was a temporary tax, and they started withholding scam. And guess what? It was supposed to end when the war ended. But they kept the withholding 5% going after 1945, when the war had ended. By that time, over 30 years had passed since 1913. Most everybody believed that, hey, I'm a U.S. citizen, I must have withholding from my paycheck, and I must pay income tax. So, and people don't object. Only one lady, Vivian Kellum, made some objections about the income tax, okay, which went nowhere. So then what happened by 1954, okay, Internal Revenue Code of 1954, they cemented the Internal Revenue Code as a real thing that everybody has to pay. Then became a 1986 law. Here is today's modern day Internal Revenue Code, the Bible of the IRS. Yep. This is really the 1954 code, you keep 1986 code, and they do modifications every so often there in the modern day system. And they really started enforcing the income tax as if everybody is in their 50 states on income taxes since the 1950s. Okay. Now, what they did, of course, over the decades, the rate of income tax, which was very low in the beginning in 1913 and 2015, it went up fast after war, during and after World War I. Look at that, okay? Up to 73% tax rate, okay? And even after World War II, it kept going on. During World War II, it was up to 94%, the income tax rate, okay? And look at it, even after World War II, it was up to 91% federal income tax rate. So now it's come down to top rate of 37%. Yeah, but guess what? It's not like it was back in 1913. That's how they got the scam going. Okay, now you have here, today, you can look up the law for yourself. at this website, uscode.house.gov. This website is a website for the United States Code, which is a consolidation and codification by subject matter of the general and permanent laws of the United States. And it is prepared by the Office of the Law Revision Council of the United States House of Representatives, the official source of the law. So we look at the law today, okay, in Title 26, the Internal Revenue Code, Chapter 79, definitions. Section 7701 says, when used in this title, Title 26, look at the term United States and state. Oh, wow. Look at that. It only includes the District of Columbia in definition of state and United States. D.C. is not a state, but it's listed there because they can tax D.C. The territories, eventually they took them out of being taxed as income taxes, and all you have is D.C. That's why only the D.C. individuals got filed income tax, not the people of the 50 states. The scam of the deep state goes back over 100 years. Now, you want to further educate yourself about all this to be free of the IRS, okay? And to do that, you need to go to our website, freedomlawschool.org. Yes, this is the place where you will be able to restore freedom, take 7 steps to regain your power and freedom, and never again voluntarily pay the Washington, D.C. swamp legally and safely, and with a guarantee if that is what you want. You click on the 7 steps right there and go down. The step 1 is follow the law. You're going to see in detail for yourself that based on the official legal websites of the U.S. government, no law requires 99% of Americans to file and pay income taxes. Yeah. These 10-minute videos a starter. Then there's 4 other short videos between 5 to 10 minutes. And then these 5 videos have these other 5 videos in more complete detail, about half hour each, before we go to the next steps. So my brothers and sisters, you just saw the truth exposed. The deep state goes back over 100 years. Donald Trump is taking down the corrupt FBI, DOJ, hopefully CIA, CDC, the FDA, all these agencies, right? But guess what? You and I, need to help Donald Trump expose the master deep state, the IRS, and the later big brother Federal Reserve. Because that's what funds them. Without the IRS deceiving you to give them money with the help of the accountant, CPAs, and tax attorneys who are ignorant of the law, who you pay to enslave you and put the rope around your neck with that 1040 form and give it to the IRS. They could not do all the evil that they've been doing. So, on the drive to and from work, always put our videos up, listen to them as you drive to and from work, at lunch and dinner, put your smartphone up again, and verify this and see it, and tell everybody about us. You don't have to be a slave no more. You are free if you choose freedom. And to choose freedom, you must choose to educate yourself as a free man or woman. So grasp your power, folks. Free yourself, and then love everyone close to you. Your spouse, children, siblings, parents, your friends, co-workers, everyone you know. Call us. We'll mail you the brochures, Restore Freedom, for free to pass out to everybody you know. Educate them about all this. And text them. Put it on your social media, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble. Put our videos up there, and we'll pay you if you tell other people about us when they join our Restore Freedom plan, which is an optional. But all of this you can do for free on your own if you want. And brothers and sisters, I want to give you all my love and wish every one of you freedom and peace, joy, and prosperity for you and your family. Thank you for watching. Okay, my friends, this is Peymon once again. I'm going to be answering your questions tonight without any video tonight. I'm sorry about that, but I'm here with you regardless. Happy to answer your questions, to assist you to discover your power, your ability to choose to live free. You being able to live free without fear. You be able to be free with confidence. So the number to call if you have questions is on the screen, as you can see if you're watching. The number is 424-552-1299, and then you press on your telephone keypad, and I will take your questions in order. The number to call again is 424 area code 552-1299. By the way, I'll give you guys a tip about next week Freedom Hour. One thing that's come out lately, I hear a lot about, is people say, "Oh, Trump is going to get rid of the income tax. I'm going to wait for him to see what he's going to do," or some variations of that kind of sentiment here. But as you'll hear next week, President Trump, as much as I love what he stands for and what he's doing, he has good intent to free American people of this income and payroll income tax slavery system. He cannot do it without Freedom Law School. So people ask, well, why? Well, he doesn't know what we know, bottom line. But because he believes the system, he has to go through Congress, but he does not need to go through Congress. Congress will not cut taxes. Congress will not cut spending. Congress will not get rid of the income tax. You can be sure about that. So anyhow, I'll talk about that next week, the whole separate topic in more detail, explain to you in more detail why it takes you, my friends. Yes, you, every one of you, to get involved in this freedom movement, to restore freedom in America. You need to take action, educate yourself, send our petitions to your congressman, stop filing and paying income tax, stop income tax stealing, so-called withholding from your paycheck by your company, and tell other people about Freedom Law School and give them a chance to join our movement to have America be free and great once again. So with that, I'm going to list the people who have questions, the area code numbers. The first one is from area code 440. The second one is from area code 904. Then the third one is from area code 949. Then followed by area code caller from area code, 609. And the last one right now we have on the list is area code 920. So let's go start one at a time. Caller from area code 440, please give me your first name, how you heard about Freedom Law School, and then your question, please.
Did you say 440, Payman?
That is you, my friend. You are live.
Okay. All right. So I heard about you just doing an internet search.
Where?
Internet search.
Oh, okay. On Google or some online search, basically?
Probably, yes.
Very good. And where is your first name?
Can you hear me?
I hear you just fine, my friend. What is your name?
Doug.
All right, Doug. And how may I help you, my friend?
I have not filed nor paid federal income taxes for about 30 years, but I did go to did 18 months in federal prison for tax evasion. But lately, I've been contacted. As part of my probation, I have to cooperate with the IRS for tax years 2018 through 2023. So I'm wanting to work with you to get off of that.
Well,
does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying. A lot of it depends on the terms of probation they gave you. So that needs to be looked at very closely as to see what it allows, how it can be done, and take it from there forward, my friend. I cannot give you any promises without looking at what you got.
Okay, I guess that would be like the probation order, what you want to see?
Yes, I would need to see the probation order, terms and conditions of probation. Also, what were you sentenced for how long? Did they give you a break on that? Just all of these relevant factors. I cannot tell you that's all I need to see, but that's the minimum that we need to look at.
Okay. Do you need to see the criminal complaint or sentencing or?
Sentencing, yep. Sentencing order, probation. Yeah, what did you get sentenced for? Yeah, that's a start. Let's just start with that. Okay? When it comes to stuff like this is not like ordering pizza. Okay, I just need to see this. Sometimes as you read stuff, it may refer to other things you may need. That you didn't see it at first that could be relevant. So, but at this point, that will do. The terms of probation, your sentence, those are the main things right now to start with.
Okay. So I already sent in the money for a half-hour consultation. Should get there Friday.
We'll be sure to get those papers to us beforehand and call us to make sure that we get it at least 24 hours before we talk. So we have time to save it properly in the system for me to review, look at it before we get on the call.
Okay. I'll try, and I might need a few days to defer our talk because I'm getting ready to move, and I have to get the papers together.
Okay, no problem, Doug. I'll be patient.
Okay.
No problem. Thank you for calling, Doug. I'll do my best to help you out.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Let's go now to area code 904 caller. Please give me your first name, how you heard about Freedom Law School, and then your question, please.
Hi, Payman. This is Carolyn. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
I heard from you for Stu Peters a lot, Alex Jones, and Dr. Ruby.
Wow, all the good sources.
Yeah. Yes, all over.
Okay, very good. And how may I help you?
And, well, that story scared me a little bit, to say the least. That was one way to start the phone calls with somebody in trouble.
Mm-hmm. Well, people that, in the past, I mean, the reality is that people like Doug did not realize how corrupt the federal government are, the Department of Injustice lawyers, and even the courts. People didn't realize that.
Right.
So they go out there thinking, oh, we're a country of law and order. We have laws, the Constitution, and of course the government lawyers, prosecutors uphold the law. The judges are a third branch of the government, independent to uphold the law as unbiased referees. And they see, oh, wait a minute, that's not the attitude of these people in government anymore. Not more and more. It's not like that, to different degrees. So they are not prepared. They were not prepared. Doug was not prepared how to handle this whole thing. That's what happened to him. That's what happened to people who came before me. Which is why when I started this stuff in 1992, and I found out, wait a minute, here I am, 29-year-old young man, Why is America not free anymore? What happened? You have all these God-given rights guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution, like free speech, which is huge. You have right to publish material without censorship by government. Get together with like-minded people and talk about these things and demand your lawmakers to clean up the government corruption. You have right to bear arms. You have right to a trial by jury of your Americans, not just government judge. You have right to trial and appeals. Like, whoa. What's all this and more? Why aren't you not free, America? You know? So I took an approach of, I'm going to find out. And so I found out, okay, pretty quickly. Okay. American people have fallen asleep. Just like that's that Gulliver, the cartoon Gulliver. Fallen asleep on these, bureaucrats and government people who have worked for the powerful and rich banks and corporations have enslaved us. It's time to wake up, and will Trump now, having been railroaded, prosecuted, even shot at, and surviving, people are seeing how corrupt the system is. Okay, now more people are waking up and they got to be prepared. That's why I urge every one of you, if you have not sent our petitions to your congressman, all three of them by certified mail, which is available for free at freedomlawschool.org, you ought to do it right away this week. It's your right, and I contend it's also your duty to do so for yourself and the family and your country. So with that, I'll get off the soapbox. Carolyn, I'm sure you called me with a question. What's on your mind?
Well, I'm just saying, after wanting to do something like this, if we were to just not pay the taxes this year, and are we going to get a notice that what's the worst repercussion if we do get a notice, and how do we combat that?
Okay, well, I need to help you look at things a little differently, okay? People always go to what's the worst thing that can happen? Worst thing that can happen is tomorrow morning you're going to get in your car and you may die in a car accident. Over 50,000 people die in car accidents every year in America. But you still get in the car every day. Right. So there is no such thing as a risk-free life, and worst case thing is not going to be just blinding you to reality of life. No, you are filing is the worst thing to do. So you will get. That's why step 2 on our website is stop filing. Stop putting that 1040 rope around your neck under oath, under penalty of perjury. Say you owe the IRS money. You do it yourself. That you owe the IRS money, and don't file. But our petitions protect you. Why? Because you're saying honestly to Congressman, I will pay my fair share of taxes, which I see is only 0 right now. If I'm wrong, all relying on U.S. government's official legal websites, let me know, and I'll gladly pay my fair share of taxes. That's proof of your good intent to follow the law and pay any taxes that you may owe. Okay? So with that, they will not ever charge you to try to put you in your prison at all. Okay? Because as soon as they see, oh, that's your defense, forget about it. Let's go get the guy with UCC arguments or straw man argument. He claims he's not he's a U.S. national, not a U.S. citizen, or zip code on his mail, or birth certificate argument, or name in capital letters. Let's get those guys. Those guys are doing some dumb patriot mythology, not something solid. So, but as far as I'm writing to you, IRS has, in 2016, stopped going after non-filers. Last year, they just barely, slowly, they started coming after a very small number of non-filers. I finally saw a little bit, very, very few letters, a little bit end of the year and a little early this year. I suspect because of Freedom Law School. We've been telling everybody, hey, IRS, these crooks, they're falling apart, and they're losing the American slaves, and they realize that they got to try somehow to come after at least a few with non-filers. So the chances are very small still, honestly. However, that's why I invite everybody to join our Restore Freedom plan and follow the lead of the America's founding fathers. One for all for one. They pitched in, got together, and secured our liberties, and they gave us this republic of 50 countries with freedom as our heritage, given to us by God, and secured by these America's founding documents like the Declaration of Independence, the U.S. Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. And so now we just got to do the same thing, except you don't need to risk your life and your fortune and sacred honor, everything like they did. With the Restore Freedom Plan today, all you got to do is pitch into a fund. Every one of you. Join hands together. Everybody listening, watching, join hands together. Get in a Restore Freedom Plan so that they come after a small number of you, because that's all they can do at best. Come after a small number of you for money. We do all the work. The lawyers, we pay them as necessary. And even at the end, if we were to lose because of some crooked judge and they end up taking some of your money, whether it's $10,000 or $10 million or more, it doesn't matter. There's plenty in our group, funds in there to reimburse that one person whatever IRS took from them. Okay, make you whole. So there's no to worry, fear of at all. And there's always a price for something for that guarantee. It's 30% of what you otherwise would have paid the IRS. So if you would pay the IRS $10,000, you keep 7 of that $10,000. Keep $3,000. If you pay the IRS $1 million, no, you don't give that money to the swamp. You keep $700,000 for yourself and your family, and $300,000 to Restore Freedom Plan. So this is with the founding fathers doing that. It's easy to do that for you to win, and at the same time, now you're safe, but you contribute to our work to restore freedom. We need to reach Trump. We need to spend money, different avenues, to try to reach bigger media. Okay, get on this bigger media out there, podcasters out there, and Trump is hard. It all takes money, and you'll be helping us making it happen to get rid of the income tax slavery system altogether. Yes, Carolyn.
So in other words, if we join and we owe $1,000, we have to pay 30% to join of that $1,000, or is there a minimum?
The minimum is $2,000 per year.
Okay, and that's like a full protection?
Full protection, correct.
Okay. And then the other question I have is the petition is protecting us. So now tomorrow's the deadline. So do you have to get that letter out before you stop filing to the Congress?
Ideally, that would be best. Ideally, yes. You do that as soon as possible. I mean, right now you could have asked for an extension if you haven't. You could have done that, but you want to do it right away because the petitions record your intent. Now, you could have looked at our website 2 months ago, a year ago, okay, and that's good. That's enough. But the sooner you send the petitions out, that records that as of this date, you definitely looked at it enough times to write your congressman about it. Whether you come across us a week before you send out the petition or a year before. But if it takes too much longer, you're going to lose credibility to some degree, perhaps, down the road to a jury. Why do you wait so long? It's all right there, you say. The laws passed by Congress, U.S. Treasury regulations, and Supreme Court. So why take it so long? Why did it take 3 years or 4 years or 2 years to not file an income tax and send out these petitions? You see, so for that reason, it's always best to send those petitions as soon as possible, wherever you at. It doesn't cost you not even less than $50. The postage and everything, it's cheap.
Right.
Okay.
So this case? So what would we do? Just send it tomorrow?
What case are you talking about? There's no case.
Well, I mean, if we just decide to do what you're saying, I mean, obviously tomorrow's the last day for us in Florida.
Yes.
There was an extension. Okay, so we'd have to send that petition out tomorrow and then just not pay? Do we stand protection that way?
Yes, you do. I suggest that what you want to do wouldn't hurt if you want to send for a extension, okay, till October 15th. No, I think November 15th. I think it is for Florida and those states that got more time.
Okay.
So that way, because on our petitions, we'll have to give the congressman time to respond.
Got it.
And correct us if we are wrong. You know, I'm 30
Okay.
days, 60 days. So it's good extra good to do that also. You don't have to, but it's better because, you know, you're saying, look, I'll wait. So by asking for, you know, that you can send out harmless extension form with the IRS, which you don't even sign. It doesn't need to be signed by
Oh, you
anybody.
don't?
Your neighbor can do one for you because nobody signs it. Then that's even better. That gives you more time out to October 15th. So you do it, but send the letters right now.
Okay, so you can get an extension and not have to sign it.
Correct. You never sign an extension form.
Okay.
Yeah, you
So
don't do that at all.
Okay, so I have to find out how to do that. Okay.
In fact, I
never did
talked
that
last.
before.
I on the Freedom Hour I did 2 weeks ago. I covered this topic. So go to our
you
social
did?
media, yeah, on Rumble, on YouTube, Odyssey. Yeah, 2 weeks ago I covered this exact topic. Always before the deadline. It was 2 or 3 weeks ago I covered this topic.
Okay. Okay, so I have to do this today.
Yeah. It's very simple. Yeah, I did. It was 13 days ago. Why you should not file a 1040 income tax form by April 15th. Yeah, it's right there. 3 weeks ago I did that.
Okay. Okay. All right, so I just filed for an extension. That's how we begin my process.
Yep.
In my instance.
Yep. All you got to
Okay.
do that tonight, and then go ahead and do the petitions out tomorrow.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. My pleasure, Carolyn. Okay, now let's go to, let's see, we got area code 949, caller 609-920, and there's a 4. Let's see, yep, that's it. So, 949, Orange County, California. I used to live down there before I came to Florida. You are next, my friend. Give me your first name, how you heard about Freedom Law School, and then your question, please.
Hello there. My name is Vanessa. I first heard about Freedom Law School, I would say about 10 years ago on Facebook, which I'm no longer on there. And my question is regarding a notice of proposed assessment that came to me in the mail from the state of California, filing enforcement section, et cetera, franchise tax board. And it says that they are proposing an amount of $606.08, and I have an option to protest by June 10th of this year, or agree with their proposed assessment or disagree with their proposed assessment.
Mm-hmm. And let me ask you, Vanessa, what is the number based upon they claimed, and how much the claim you made, and are you single? Do you have married, any children? What's the situation?
Well, on page 3 of the document, they attached some income totaling subtotal is about $27,000.28 from that year, which it says according to their letter, which says we obtained information that you received income or gross proceeds during the taxable year referenced. This information was reported on Federal Form 1099 miscellaneous, etc.
Okay.
If we received it.
Gotcha. That's okay. I should have had the letter with me to look at beforehand because I could see it and read it faster, but you gave me enough information, Vanessa. Thank you. So you were an independent contractor, okay? And
Yes.
so, look, California Franchise Tax Board is the most lawless, aggressive tax agency in America. You know, they make IRS look like wonderful, good little, you know, scout boys. Okay? Now, they were like that back in 1990s. Before, early 90s, before they became totally communist. Oh, we have the letter. I have your letter right here. Okay, I see that. Thank you. Vanessa from Anaheim. Yes, I used to live in Tustin, down the street from you. Okay. So,
Yeah.
they're so corrupt, you know, and so you're probably better off, you know, if you had the 1099, you had expenses as an independent contractor. Okay? Shows, put on a look with expenses, this 27,000 gross came down to the net was maybe 24,000 or 18,000, whatever that is. You're not required to file. You owe them nothing. But they want that piece of paper from you. Oh yeah, look at that Lyft. Yeah, you know, gave you $6,800, more $7,000. Yeah, obviously paid for gas, maintenance on your car. So when you fill out the tax return, show that you know that you had actually your net was not $27,000. Your net after paying for gas and wear on your car, be a driver, Uber, and Lyft. You know, of this $27,000, your net was maybe half of that, $15,000, $20,000. You owe them zero. So I would do that because if you don't file, these crooks will just ignore everything and then eventually come after you for the penalty and taxes. Give them that piece of paper, okay? Even though they do follow federal law, but they follow no law. They're lawless. FDB and the courts of California, okay? And that's the simplest way for you to get out of this little hassle you got, okay? And I would suggest to you this, Vanessa. How old are you?
46.
Why are you still living when you only make less than $30,000 a year, which is net $20,000? Why are you still living in that communist republic? Why don't you come to Texas or Florida, Tennessee, some other free states? Why are you stuck there?
Well, I would have to take other people with me, and I have to talk to them about it. I wouldn't be coming by myself.
Are you married? Do you have children?
No, of both those. I'm with my, I have other family that I'm with.
Well, are they paying, helping you with your living expenses? I mean, you with your rent and car insurance and food. I mean, yeah, because what you're making doesn't pay for living in Orange County, California. We both know that, you know. So I would suggest you have a conversation with them about this. If they're gonna, I imagine that you probably live with them and give you really a low rent, I suppose, something like that. Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I highly recommend you get out because you can make your money goes a lot farther in these non-communist states. There's no requirement to stay there. You know, founding fathers, many people came throughout. They passed the Atlantic Ocean to come to new land. But they could not see the family anymore in England or Germany. They came in 16, 17, 1800s. Now, we don't even want to go from California to Texas or Florida, which is just an airline flight away. You can see them anytime. You fly back and forth for better opportunities. And I recommend, Vanessa, freedom lovers like you are really reconsider your decision to be stuck there working for, driving, being a driver. Even doing that in Florida, you get more take home a lot more at the end of all that stuff. Okay, so and family members, they'll probably follow you sooner or later once they see how much more affordable the life is and nicer in places like Florida. So, any other questions, Vanessa?
That takes me to my next question. In the email I sent to you, I also attached employees withholding allowance certificate, which we're in the process right now through the veteran program. We're in the process right now. Be a caregiver for my dad, and they said it would be a stipend, but then they gave us paperwork which says employees withholding allowance, which it sounds like a W-4, and I believe it's optional, but they are telling they're saying it's not optional to fill it out. And I attached that to the email if you look at it.
Well, I see what you got here. Look, something from Employment Development Department, EDD, worksheets. I see nothing like that. I'm sorry, it's not here. To look at the papers I have right now. What I see also is an email from somebody else. Let's see.
The top left says EDD, Employment Development Department. In the center of that, it says Employee Withholding Allowance Certificate at the top.
Well, who are you working for?
They're establishing an employer's relationship between me and my dad, who's a veteran who qualifies to receive assistance since he received an injury. So I would be helping him. And originally they stated it would be a stipend that goes directly to him, but the paperwork shows that he would be my employer, I'm his employee, and they attached this form from the EDD, Employees Withholding Allowance Certificate. And so that's why I'm calling in about that form. Wow.
How oppressive can you be? You want to take care of your father, okay? They want to give you some money, but they want to get their cut back. I never seen this form before, honestly. I think it's ridiculous to have your father making you your employer. So I need to look at this closely to even say anything about this form. I cannot give you an opinion on this right now. This is kind of a different situation. But, look, all this stuff, you can sign it under duress. Say, I'm being forced to sign this thing, which I don't think applies to me. Okay, but, how much are going to pay you a year anyhow?
In that instance, it would be $4,100 per month times 12 months. So it would be about in the neighborhood of like $50,000.
And the state of California pays you?
It's through his VA benefits.
Yeah, I don't know how does California get into that. Well, if it's through VA, then you're better off helping your father move out of the state of California, and you can get him a lot better housing, a lot better care. Okay, just get him out of there, and the money will be tax free. More reason. So you're taking care of parents. I see why you're stuck there. I see why. Because you love your family. You love your father. Absolutely, yes. You should take care of him. I'm thankful and I'm glad and proud of you. You're doing that, Vanessa. But remember this.
Thank you.
You can do a better job when you're not poor. Where you can live in a better neighborhood. Don't worry about gangbangers in Anaheim. Okay? Seriously, you know that. Get out. Bring your father. But that's the best thing you can do, and you don't have to worry about all this stuff at all. Okay, that's the best thing you consider for your betterment of your father. He is living in this peaceful place. All right? And we'll help you move to Florida if you want to come out here. Central Florida is the best part. I recommend you could really consider that. Anything else, Vanessa?
Yeah, I'll talk to him. I told him what you said the last time I called in, and he said, hell no. He said, I definitely don't want to move to Florida because he said Florida sucks. That's what he said. But
why?
But no, I mean,
Why is that about Florida or Texas? Why?
He said that Florida weather is nice 3 months out of the year.
That's not true. He's thinking Miami. Miami's tropical down the south, okay? Here we're talking about like Tampa area, north of Tampa is subtropical. It's like Southern California, a little bit more humid, more rain, more water. So what you need to do, you need to bring him for a vacation to see for himself. Once he sees the beaches are here are clean, white, the fish swim next to your legs. You see the fish next to your legs, powder white sand in Tampa area, and no gang, no graffiti, and no homeless on the beaches. All that, he's got to see it, experience it. He will not believe it. So I would suggest you really bring him down for a vacation first. He needs to see it for himself. Okay?
Okay, I'll bring it up to him. And then regarding this form, do you want me to call back next week, tomorrow, or what?
No, you may want to do. This is something I got more detail because it's my first time doing this thing. I'm not comfortable publicly telling somebody what to do about something I've never seen before. And I can ask you a lot of questions on these calls. people are waiting to get the questions asked. This is like a more detailed consultation. Should be a really paid consultation to help you with this thing, and because I don't want to give you bad answer, and I don't want to rush you. Here I got to rush you off because I got other people asking questions right now. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions, Vanessa?
No.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
You're welcome. Thank you for calling. Okay. Before I take the next call from area code 609, the number I'll remind you to call if you have a question is 424-552-1299. Press 1 on your telephone keypad. You'll be added to the list of people with questions. 424-552-1299, and then press 1. Let's go to the caller from area code 609. You are live, my friend. Please give me your first name, how you heard about Freedom Law School, and then your question, please.
Hello, my name is Gage, and I heard about Freedom Law School through some colleagues of mine, and I've read a lot of books about taxes over the past year, and I was referred to your website by someone who I think joined your group, and so then I've been looking at your website. I sent in the petitions to my Congress people. I did the exempt on the W-4, and I didn't file a 1040 this year. So I've taken the steps. I just haven't joined your program yet, and that's kind of what I had a question about.
Mm-hmm. By the way, W-4 exempt you did. Did you do the one on our website?
Well, I had to do it digitally through my company, but they allowed me to do that. So.
You need to send ours, excuse me, by U.S. mail, certified to your company, manager, payroll department, human resource director, or president, headquarters, to make a record of why you do an exempt. It's very important.
Yeah.
If you don't do that, you open yourself to go in a potentially tax prison for tax evasion. Because they're portrayed to a regular jury, you don't want to pay your fair share because you don't get to explain and attach the law to a W-4 because the computer didn't let you do that. The computer forces you just to put some numbers in there and sign it. You want to make a record of what you did by sending our version to your employer so that that's the poison pill for the vampire, garlic to the vampire. That, no, you have the law on your side. You are forced to do it this way because your employer should not be stealing any money out of your paycheck to begin with. Okay, so do that first.
Right.
What else is on your mind, Gage?
I did send that letter to my payroll department, so
Great.
They got it. I don't know what they did for that, but
Doesn't matter.
Well,
It's in the records. That's all that matters. You got a copy for yourself. Good job. What else is on your mind?
Right. So just a couple things. I was wondering how many clients you have at your, that are freedom, the freedom plan.
Well, that's a number that IRS loves to know, and I do not publicize that for that reason.
Uh-huh. Okay. And then, okay, that's fair. I just, I guess I have reservations about joining you just because I don't know enough about you and, what your record is. I know you haven't had any convictions in, 22 years or whatever. But, what kind of, or you never lost a case, right? So, what kind of cases are those? Are those failure to file, tax evasion, fraud cases? I'm just wondering what kind of cases y'all have defended?
Well, if you go to our 7 steps to free yourself of IRS deception, fear, robbery, and slavery, step 4 is take courage from our victories. So, for example, myself, I haven't filed and paid income tax over 30 years, teaching Americans to do the same since 1992. And I've been under criminal investigation at least at 3 different occasions, back in 1994, back in 2006, and as far as I know, I've been in criminal investigation at least for maybe, who knows, 5-10 years again. You know, they never even been able to indict me, to even put me for trial for not having filed and paid income tax openly. As far as the students, I've beat them so many different times, in so many different ways, the IRS. On our step 4, you see that. Okay? I've had many victories against the IRS. It's all in step 4. So, rather than taking time of everybody to talk about all these victories, just go to step 4, and you can see my personal victories against the IRS listed there. And you can see sampling our student victories against the IRS also there in step 4.
Okay, I will look at that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then I guess my last question is, I think in one video, I was just watching you on one of your videos on the website the other day, and I think you said, when you're talking about the pricing for joining the group, you said that 6 out of 10 pay like the minimum, which is $2,000 a year, I think, or something like that.
Yes.
So, yeah. So so that's fairly low income. Like that's at the bottom end of the scale, right? So, do you have a significant amount of clients that are making way more than that? Hundreds of thousands of dollars, where I guess 6 out of 10 are paying the minimum, so I guess 4 out of 10 would be paying more than that. But I'm just wondering about how you fund, if your guarantee, if you guarantee someone $1 million, you must have some people that are paying a lot to get you that guarantee backing money, right?
Well, again, this kind of information.
And I know you're not going to give out details.
Yeah. Why would I advertise that to the IRS on my public show? You don't want to help out your enemies, in whenever you can. But just know that my background is in financial planning. I went to the University of California, got my degree in business, with emphasis in, I studied a lot of marketing and finance and economics. When I was in college, I did real estate loans. I did in and out of college 6 years of financial planning, insurance, life insurance, and investments, mutual funds. I'm also a math guy, number guy. So I understand numbers very well. I know how you need to put money aside for contingencies, for cases, for criminal prosecutions, for in case you lose, you pay somebody off. All these things. I understand all that stuff. So I'm 62 now. Over 40 years I've done this stuff and with money dealt with. I had my own business. So with that background, I hope that gave you enough confidence that I know how to handle money. And I know when I get, bigger members to have the money properly, saved up just in case it's necessary. Because the worst thing I can do, I always knew about me and other people, is to deceive people by giving them baseless legal theories. One, because my credibility needs to be gold. And I don't want to hurt anybody. I want a clean conscience. And number 2, I keep my promises. I'm the man of my word. So, and I didn't do this program 20 years ago, or even 10 years ago. The 100% guarantee. because I wasn't ready. I didn't see a clear path to be able to do such a thing. It wasn't even imaginable that I could do that. I came up with a 7-year $1 million guarantee. That was about 4 years ago. And a lifetime 100% guarantee is only 2 years ago. So I came to these plans because I'm very confident that I can do it based upon my over 3 decades of dealing with the IRS and understanding money and financial planning. So hopefully that gives you a better idea.
That makes me feel good. I guess just hearing it from you helps. I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions, Gage?
That's all I had, Payman.
Okay.
No, that was good. Thank you, Payman. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for asking. We got right now, let's see, 2 more callers. Area code 920, followed by a call from area code 662. 920 caller, you are live with Freedom Law School. You give me your first name, how you heard about us, and then your question.
Hi. Hi, Payman. How are you?
Good, thank you.
This is Liz. I've called a few times. I just call a lot, and I just called yesterday, and I spoke with I think it was George, and he was very helpful, and he told me to email my questions to the questions, and I had a question about the court cases too, actually, similar to what the last caller was, and you did send me to step 4, and I've been looking at it, and I guess like my question still is, because my boss is trying to, she can look up court cases, like if it's the name of a person. I know it didn't go to the Supreme Court, but all court cases are public record. So is a case like in particular that I can show her of one of your students that did not file taxes and didn't have to pay and didn't go to jail? That's basically what my boss is asking me for. She's a CPA.
She's asking me to prove a negative. How can I prove a negative? How can I prove that you did not dye your hair 25 years ago blue? Or 25 years ago, you never dyed your hair blue or green. It's like, no, it's the other way around. If I was teaching people the wrong thing and people following me were going to prison, that would be public record all over the place. Dozens, hundreds of my students would have been in jail, prison, and publicized. But you don't find that, do you?
No. That's why I was looking for a case that shows that they did not go to prison.
Well, if they leave them alone, what am I supposed to do? Insist the government prosecutes one of my students and then help them win? Isn't that better that they're leaving him alone? The IRS is leaving non-filers alone. What he assumes, the IRS will come after you as a non-filer. But if you go to step 2 on our website, show them that, look, the people that put in prison are filers. I have a chart there in step 2. You see that 93% approximately of the people that put in prison are all filers, not non-filers. It's a myth that FBI and DOJ and CIA are your friends. No, they're a bunch of crooks and criminals, right? Also, it's a myth that if you don't file, IRS will put you in prison. So he just needs to realize that no, they lie to you about this thing that you go to prison if you don't file. It's the other way around. They put you in prison because you signed that piece of paper under penalty of perjury because you were deceived to believe that's the safest thing to do with the IRS, where it's actually the most dangerous thing to do. So no, I cannot give him that, because I got, who knows, I honestly don't know how many people follow me over the decades. Tens of thousands? Hundreds of thousands? Or more? I don't know. So, but none of them going to prison who came to me clean and stayed with me has ever gone to prison.
So the IRS never asked them to pay their taxes. Never said, "Hey, you didn't file your return." That's never happened to your students.
No, they've contacted them to file and pay income taxes, but they didn't put them in prison.
Right. So so like a court case where they contacted them to file their taxes, or there's wages are going to be garnished. I know there's a couple of victories of where the students' wages got garnished, but then they got them back, and I've been reading all of these. Mm-hmm. But my boss just needs to show her like one case where like it didn't go to the Supreme Court, but it went to some kind of court, and it was the student versus the IRS or whatever, and where they won, where they didn't have to pay, they didn't have to file their taxes.
Got it. Okay, I know what he wants. Right. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, guess what? I cannot give him that for two reasons. Number one, IRS is really leaving non-filers alone. So how can I go to court when they leave you alone? Since 2016 especially, IRS has really collapsed coming after non-filers. They stopped. If you go to step 3 on my website, you see right there, the IRS decided to leave non-filers alone. The Treasury auditors criticized the IRS. They said, no, you should go after non-filers because otherwise the slaves will be free. And the IRS said, sorry, here's the middle finger. We're not going to go after non-filers. We need more money to do that. So, and the corner hoax, we didn't put the caboose. And the IRS's neck is like you down and a karate chop comes behind your neck. So they just finally, like I said, late last year, little this year, they started getting a few letters to some non-filers. Very, very few. So he needs to see that. You need to show him step 3. See, he's coming based upon his false assumptions in his head. I cannot prove something that's based upon a false assumption that he wants. They're going to come after you. Number 2 thing you got to tell him is this. Is he a Trump supporter?
I don't know, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Well, he's seen how Trump was railroaded, right? Let's see. What did Trump, besides the Trump-Russia conspiracy theory, Ukraine conspiracy theory, 2 impeachments, and then they civil lawsuits, they railroad him, right? Complete railroad job. The crooked judges. Criminal cases all over the country. In New York, they convict him, right? So these crooked judges.
Her concern is that she's a CPA. Our clients are tax filers, and she's never heard of this before, and she's just thinking it's false. And she's like, "Show me a court case where this is real," and like she wants to protect me.
You don't need a court case. Here's the thing. Tell her this: judges are not gods. Tell her that right straight to her face. Judges are not gods.
Yeah, she knows that.
No, she doesn't know that. No. She's in her head like, well, I want some judge. You just say you are right about it. Unless the judge says so. It means nothing. Well, the judge can railroad Trump also. Judge also let legal aliens out of a back door of a courthouse to not be arrested by immigration. And that judge was arrested for helping an illegal immigrant get away. So that's the problem. Your boss is still suffering from this, judges are gods, independent third branch of government that rules on the law. And what the judge says is the law. Yes, judge. Wrong. You see all these crooked judges who railroaded Trump, January 6ers, and right now trying to stop him. Every step of the way, they will do this crooked communist judges. So you don't need the judges. Here's the thing, you don't need the judges. He's going to wake up and realize, no, we've been lied to. What he needs to do is this. Liz, I don't know what you got to do. Give your boss a good lunch. Take him to a nice restaurant or dinner or at work. But saying, watch this video for 10 minutes. My first video on step 1. Just give me, can you give me 10 minutes of your time? Just 10 minutes. Sure, here, watch this. Show me where he's wrong.
She's too busy. She's got all these tax returns to file. Like, she does not have time for that. So that's why she just said, just show me a simple court case. Like, and I'll look at
just
that.
10 minutes. No, she's beyond hope. Nope, sorry. If she will not give you 10 minutes to watch the video, she's beyond hope. Don't waste your time. And you're wasting my time. 10 minutes. Does she respect you enough? Just say, hey, do me a favor. You know, maybe I'm wrong about this. Hey, could you look at this 10-minute, this thing to me? Maybe I missed something. Would you do me a favor, watch this 10-minute video? Just give me 10 minutes of your time.
I'll try.
That's all it takes.
I mean, after the deadline, then I'm sure she'd have time. But I mean, the deadline is May 1st for Florida, so we're running out of time, and she's very busy right now.
No, of course not now. Of course not. Deadline's a couple days away. Of course after May 1st. Absolutely. You're sorry, it's the wrong time. After May 4th. Give her a couple days to catch up with herself after being up late to midnight. May 1st to catch up. May 4th or 5th would be the earliest I would ask you. Give me 10 minutes. All right?
Okay. And then my second question is, in the meantime, obviously I'm just going to have to file an extension.
Yes.
And she's help me with that tomorrow. But if you file an extension, you still have to pay the tax. Oh,
no, you don't.
Correct?
No, you don't. No, you don't. You just ask for extension. You say any tax that would be due, I would have paid. That's all it is. And you're not even signing that piece of paper. You're not signing it.
No, you don't sign it.
No.
But, give them a ballpark number, and if you owe tax, then you have to pay it,
Put
right?
0. You can put 0 on there. Because you studied our
not the
website. You know you owe 0. Just put 0. You just want to take more time, make sure it's not a number bigger than 0. That's all.
And they can deny it if it looks false. Then they can deny the extension.
Wrong. They cannot, and they don't do that.
Okay.
Your boss is trying to think you're dealing with IRS with a bunch of intelligent Harvard MBA graduates, which look at every piece of paper closely and evaluate it. That's not how it works. IRS bunch of little people off the street they got, with the low education. The process paperwork, they don't have time to look at all this stuff. Are you kidding me? 1/3 of all tax returns are filed by October 15th after extension. You think anybody sits down and examines those pieces of paper? Of course not. They just put it in, file it away. That's it. You'd be fine.
So if I file it with 0 tax, it's not just going to kick it back and send it to me and be like, nope.
No. This is 0 tax. I think it says, let me refresh myself. It says that, have you paid what's due? You put on a yes. That's all. I covered this issue in the video I did 3 weeks ago on this thing. Okay, so watch that. I don't have it in front of me right now to refresh myself, honestly. Form 4868. Let me open it right now on a computer. Let's see. Here it is. I think, is that what it is? Application for automatic extension of time to file income tax return. U.S. income tax, 2350, I think it is. Yeah. All it is, it's very simple thing. Again, no one signs it. Your neighbor can send it in for you. So what does that tell you? There's no penalty when you don't sign nothing.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
I'll watch that video.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for calling, Liz.
Thank you.
You're most welcome. We have one more caller right now from area code 62 next, but before we take that caller, the number to call if you have questions, everybody, is 424-552-1299, and then press 1 on your telephone keypad. 424-552-1299. Let's go now to our caller from area code 662. You are live, my friend, with Freedom Law School. Give me your first name, how you heard about Freedom Law School, and then your question, please.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name's Elizabeth. This is my second time to listen to one of your Q&As. And just before I talk about anything else, just for your listeners, all you have to do is call your tax preparer's office. You don't even have to go in person. You just call them just like I did, and I told them I'm not going to file federal. I want to file an extension for state tax only. And they said, okay, no problem. We'll put it in. And that's it. That's all you have to do. You know, you don't even have to go down there, in person, nothing. As long as you have the same tax preparer that's prepared your taxes in the past, that's all you have to do is make a phone call. So just to say that. But I listened to another one of Dr. Lee Merritt's podcasts last night, and she interviewed this very interesting guy, Joe Bannister, who is a former IRS top secret investigator, like CIA and FBI. They have special agents, and he said some really great things about you. He highly recommends that people follow you. He finally started going down the rabbit hole and realized the corruption, and did some digging, and they finally let him go. And he stopped paying taxes. I believe it was in 1989 or 1998 or 1999. I can't remember. But he doesn't file federal or state. And he did end up going to court. But people need to realize that the IRS is sending out fake documents now. There used to be a 1040A form that President Trump in his last administration got rid of, and lo and behold, he gets a form from them that is a 1040-A with a zero filing amount for the year 2002. And keep in mind, again, he stopped paying in the 90s. So they're sending out fake, false documents, and they're auto-generated, most of them. He did confirm, as you have confirmed, that the IRS is losing agents right and left. So the chances of anyone, ending up in court is slim. But he ended up with an attorney, and they went line by line through this document that they claimed, he was a tax evader and all these criminal charges against him and everything. And they went line by line. Is this statement true? No. Is this document fake? He had never heard of a 1040-A form. So they just made it up. It's absolutely crazy. And he said, he has his own website. It's called agentfortruth.com. But he said, Dr. Merritt, you need to get Payman on again because he knows what he's talking about. He was a special agent, and he put people in jail for, he I'm sure asked God to forgive him for that, because he realized these were innocent people. The 16th Amendment was never ratified. They got a bunch of cronies from Congress behind closed doors, pushed it through without a, consensus. It has to be voted on by Congress, Senate and House, and it never was. It was never ratified, and it's just such a scam. So I just one more confirmation that that you know exactly what you're talking about. And I tell you, I honestly hope that people like you and Joe Bannister and some of these other people that are pushing for freedom and pushing to go back to the original Constitution and the Republic, I really hope that one day you will all unite, because you all have your special expertise, and actually you're the backup of you're the backbone of all of this, because you're the one that provides the protection. All these other people are giving us information that we can go by, but to actually have someone that knows the real law. You don't need a lawyer. You don't need a judge. You don't need all this court garbage crap. You need somebody like Peymon who knows what he's talking about. You've done the research, and so I've got to join up with you, because I did file my extension. Again, you can do it over the phone. You don't have to go in and fill out any paperwork, and go from there. I want to have the protection, because I know I'm being very targeted, because I share a lot of truth that people don't like about me. So I'd like to have the protection just in case there's ever a situation where they want to try and scam me. But it's all a big scam. So thank you for everything you do.
You're welcome. As you may, apparently you don't know that, but Joe Bannister and I are united. He's one of my students back in '97.
Awesome.
Joe, you didn't know that. Joe's one. He heard about me and he contacted me for a year and a half. I helped him educate himself about this stuff, guided him, and he verified everything. He wrote a book about income tax that I published it for him and distributed it out for him, and he gave it to his bosses at the IRS to give IRS commissioner to refute, and they refused to refute that. So Joe and I have been working for decades together, happily about all this stuff. Yes, we are definitely united, Elizabeth. Yeah, so he didn't mention that part in his conversation, but yes, thank you for mentioning Joe. Joe was a great guy. He's a man of conscience, and even though he was a criminal investigation division agent, he's a man of integrity. So when he came across this stuff, he said, well, I got, have a duty to uphold the Constitution, and my oath to uphold the Constitution and American people's rights. He did his homework, and they try to shut him up. They try to put him in prison for taxes. The government failed to do so. It was a black eye for the IRS. And so IRS knows he's my student. We're friends. So for over 25 years, he has not filed paid any income taxes either. So there you go. People don't need to be afraid, and thank you for saying people need to stop looking at some government authority to approve them. We already have that in the laws written by Congress and as upheld and interpreted by the U.S. Supreme Court. These lower court judges, the people looking for them to approve of them, you ain't going to get that from the swamp. They are part of the swamp. These low-level judges, but too many people still, believe that, I need some swamp judge to approve of me, No. Washington said the best repository about rights and freedoms is we the people, ourselves, not some government authority. So we got us to thank you, Elizabeth, for that. I really appreciate you. Thank you for being outspoken, for the truth, sharing with other people. Everybody, you can call us. We'll send you our brochures at no charge to you for free. Restore Freedom brochures. Give it out to people. You can put our videos on your social media, on your video channels, everywhere. Text your friends about our 10-minute short video on step 1. Right there. Got 10 minutes? Please give me 10 minutes. Watch this video. Step 1. Follow the law. The first video. Correct me if I'm wrong. And have fun with it, folks. So thank you, Elizabeth, for calling. I appreciate you.
Sure. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, everybody, the calling board is open. If we're done, we can end the call tonight. Or if you have a question, here's your last chance to ask it tonight before the May 1st deadline that people think they have to follow in Florida, the Carolinas, Alabama, Georgia, many parts of Tennessee, Virginia, LA fire people, Los Angeles fires, and Juneau, Alaska, and a couple other places. So with that, the number to call if you have a question, the board is open, is 424-552-1299. Again, 424-552-1299. And you press on your telephone keypad, and you'll be live with me right away to get your questions answered. So people, don't wait for Trump. Okay? Trump is doing a good job at the top, but we have to do our part from the bottom. See? Gorbachev, head of the Soviet Union from the top, was trying to change the communist Soviet Union. But it was the people at the bottom who brought about the breakup of the Soviet Union. It was not Gorbachev, it was the people. Same thing here. Trump is one good patriot up there. Elon Musk, the Doge, these guys are there. But they need our support. They need us to wake up. They need the American people to take action on this end. And just don't leave it in their lap to do all the work. So, do your part, everybody. Stop filing and paying income tax. Tell other people to watch our videos. Step 1, follow the law about income tax fraud. Love everybody you know, even though they might be afraid, they might be closed-minded. Say, can you give me just 10 minutes? What do you think about this video? So you do that, and guess what? America's been free much sooner and great much sooner, as you will see. We have a caller right now from area code 757. All right, my friend, you are live with Freedom Law School. Give me your first name, how you heard about Freedom Law School, and then your question, please.
Hey, Payman, this is Troy. I spoke with you before. I joined y'all about a couple of years ago. I had made a mistake on one thing. We're supposed to pay our state taxes still, I guess, but I never did have them, only withheld the federal, not the state. But I guess I need to get the paperwork straight for that. I'm not sure exactly what I need to do.
What state do you live in, Troy?
Virginia Beach, Virginia. It's they're really sticklers for tax laws and stuff. But I haven't not paid them. It's come out of my check. This withdrawal of Virginia. But I just haven't went to like a CPA or something to take care of the state part. I want to get that straight before something comes with that.
Are you an employee?
Yes, I'm an employee of a big company.
Okay. Well, Virginia is one of those states that follows the federal tax laws and definitions. So if you don't owe federal income tax, you don't owe Virginia either.
Oh, well, I had heard something about state tax you don't really owe, but I didn't want to get into something. I wanted to make sure it was straight on the state part because I didn't know if I should go to a CPA or just leave things as they are until something comes up, because I know y'all don't deal with the state, y'all deal with the federal.
Well, no, we deal with the state also. We definitely do. I just do not automatically give people the option of state membership in a Restore Freedom Plan with a guarantee. We actually do give you, help you with the state also. The Restore Freedom Plan members get that as well, but there's no guarantee automatically. I give it sometimes on case-by-case basis. That's all.
Okay, because I think I spoke with George there at the beginning of the week or the end of last week, and he told me there was some sort of form, a VA4 form or something. I wrote it down. I don't have it in front of me right now, but my mind's a little all over the place right now. But anyways, should I just leave that alone, being they're taxing me anyways, and just because my main concern was the federal, and I've been telling people that work about y'all about, you don't have to pay your federal, that part of the tax, and they say, well, what about your state? And that didn't get me until I was like, I just kind of let everything go.
Well, I'm not clear about your question at this point. What form you're talking about,
Okay.
or what's your question? Could you be more clear?
Okay. Well, my question is, I'm not concerned about the federal because I'll cover that. I take care of that.
Right.
But I thought that you, well, the lady that just spoke before I was on, she was talking about she calls and they do her state. So I know you don't cover state, but should I still take care of the state with like a CPA or something?
No, what for? Why need a CPA for?
Okay.
The law's on your side. Does he know the law? If he did, why does he have people file federal income tax forms who don't live in D.C.?
Right. Okay. I might check into that Virginia form that, I think it was George's name. I'm bad with names, but I spoke to him there. He deals with that part of it. Okay. I will just let it go then. I feel better talking to you about that. I just wasn't sure. They still tax me off my check. And of course, they're going to tax you with your mortgage payment because the taxes are built into that for the city.
You can stop that stealing of income taxes from your paycheck. That's available on our website for free. And the members we assist that also just follow the law.
So that does pertain to the state. You just have to do basically the same thing you do with the federal?
Well, most states, but not all, follow the federal withholding process and procedures also. There's 42 states that claim to have a state income tax, and I cannot give you exactly off the top of my head instructions for each state's withholding issue situation. Okay? So we got to, but for that, we need, to talk to you one-on-one about your job, your situation, and you probably want to do a one-on-one private consultation because I want to make sure that before I tell you anything specific that it's perfectly correct.
I think the reason it's been on my mind more so is because I have coworkers that have had issues with the state of Virginia with their taxes, and I'm talking big penalties. And even with the IRS, I told them about y'all, but I guess they're in a situation where they just can't get out of it, or people have the mindset that, we have to pay these taxes, like maybe their wife or whatever. But I told them, I said, you don't have to. And yet they're caught up in a mess. And I just didn't want to get caught up in a mess on the state side.
Well, worst case scenario, if you want, you could file and pay income tax for the state, but not the federal. That's an option always. Yeah, but I don't automatically tell people to do that. Like in California, it's really aggressive, and I tell people a lot of times, you may want to just pay those communists until you can get out of that hellhole, like I did. So Virginia's become a communist because of the D.C. suburbs. Those communists from D.C. are living in Virginia, many of them, and Maryland. Turn those two beautiful southern states into communist states. So that might be something you have to do, or you choose to do. But I cannot tell you that. You cannot decide for yourself without doing a more full, private, detailed evaluation.
Well, I appreciate talking to you. I'll probably try to set up an appointment with you one-on-one. I'll look over those. You said you have state laws on the website. I'll look at those and try to study up on them and get that sheet offline. Or he sent me the link for it and print it out and look at it. It's an exempt form for the state of Virginia.
Very good. Very good. Yep. Take advantage of our website. We have so much for free. Definitely do that, my friend. Very good. Thank you for calling, Troy. I appreciate you.
I want to thank you again for all you do. Appreciate all you do. And I hear you on many different podcasts. And what you say is true because I've seen it just on the federal side. And they are they're crooks with titles. That's all they are.
That's right. Crooks with titles like judges.
Yeah.
That's right. They hide behind those titles. They call themselves honorable. That's one that, by the way, just let me segue on that issue. When I was a kid, I remember Soviet Union, and the communists, they used to call each other honorable this and honorable that, and so and then you call the king of Iran, Shah, the honorable, the royal majesty, like, that guy's another human being just like you and I. He puts his pants on one leg at a time and goes to the bathroom and cleans himself just like you and I do. You know, what's all this people making people all this fancy schmancy stuff that they do? You know, it's all a bunch of nonsense. And then I started about 20, 25 years ago, I noticed that, wait a minute, these guys are calling themselves all this honorable stuff. You know, not just the judges in courts call you honor. I knew that. But now legislatures call each other your honor. They have some, some executive branch officer testify before Congress to come honorable. BS. You don't get honor by giving someone calling you that. You show honor by your character, by the way you behave and the way you do things. So these people call themselves that, each other, because they don't have honor, actually. They just have to pretend they're honorable when they're not.
Right.
So thank you for sharing that bit of reminder, Troy. I appreciate you, brother.
All right. Thank you again for all you do, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Same with you, Troy. We have one more caller just joined us from area code 916. You're live.
Bye-bye.
916 area code caller. Please give me your first name, how you heard about us, and then your question, please.
My name is Frank. I heard about you on X. I saw you on an X post, so I started following you a couple years ago, and I followed your rules. I sent the letters to my congressmen and to senators. The only difference is I got replies back from my senators. I got their green letters back, but I didn't get one from my congressperson. So should I send her another letter again a couple of years ago, or send another again, or what?
Unfortunately, they don't represent us anymore these days. You know, sadly speaking, so often they represent the big banks and corporations and special interests that pay for their re-election advertising campaign. And they spend half the time congressmen raising money for their next election versus serving the people they're supposed to represent. So you can write them again, call them again, go visit them. Absolutely. You know, I was my congressman, I went visit him in person, still get no response, you know, but doesn't mean you should stop trying.
Okay. My wife did not agree with what I'm doing, but I just told her to file separately. So what happens with me for that?
You'll be free, she'll be a slave. That's it. That's simple. I mean, what can I tell you? She puts a rope around her neck on the penalty of perjury, maybe go to prison for 9 years in case her number comes up and you don't. She claims she owes the IRS money, you don't. The burden of proof is on her to prove every expense and deduction. You know, they can drag her in court and say, prove everything. You don't.
So I'm not screwing her over by not filing taxes.
No, she's doing it to herself.
It's just very strange. So,
because she did not take the 10 minutes. She has to watch that 10-minute step 1 video, and then watch the step 2 video.
She wouldn't do it.
You know, I know she wouldn't do it. So you gotta somehow, I don't know how, schmooze her, bribe her, say, look, I'll file with you. Just give me an hour of your time to show me what I need. I need your help. I need your help, your wisdom, to show me my errors or my ways. Would you give me an hour? Show me, please. Watch the video.
No. She believes me, but she doesn't want to. So what are the legal ramifications for both of us because we're married?
What state do you live in?
California.
She says she owes the money on the 1044. You don't. What you may want to do, consider you could have a property separation agreement that whatever you own is yours. You own and owe is yours, and she whatever owes and owns is hers. So you don't end up taking your money for the taxes she claims to the IRS. They will come after you because California is a community property state where half of everything is owed and owned by both of you. So you may want to do that too. That's all. Otherwise, she can be a slave and file a 1044 and you don't.
Okay.
All right. Other question for you. I've seen your filings, you know, the stats you put up about who the non-filers versus the filers, and you show like there's only 81 people go to prison from filers. I'm just curious, who do they get non-filers at prison?
Who did they? What do you mean, who did they?
I'm just curious why if they didn't file their taxes, maybe they don't understand the law that you told us. I guess that's the difference.
Well, two things. First of all, they don't know what I know. People stop filing income tax by relying on a bunch of patriot mythology nonsense, baseless legal theories like sovereign citizen, state citizen, UCC, common law, you know, my birth certificate argument, straw man, name it all capital letters, all kind of ridiculous stuff. Number two, actually, a couple years ago, with one of my researchers, we read a bunch of cases of the supposedly non-filer cases of people that put in prison. And to our surprise, these examples they gave as non-filers going to prison, most of them were actually filers. There was a few of them that they filed, but didn't file for a couple of years, and they called them non-filers. Even though they were filers, who just happened to not file for maybe a couple, 3 years.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Payman.
You're welcome. My pleasure, my friend. Thank you for calling, Frank. All right, everybody. We're done for tonight, looks like. Thank you very much, you know, for being with me. And yes, May 1st is just another day. So you can definitely relax and send for an extension. If you need to do that, go ahead and do that. That's fine. But the key is to continue to educate yourself as you drive to and from work and errands. Put up videos on your smartphone. Watch the road. Listen to 7 steps. When you go to work at lunch, dinner at home, now you can put your smartphone or computer once again this time. Watch and see the law, everything for yourself, and verify it for yourself. This way you'll be free, my friends, and prosperous with confidence. So with that, I give you my love and invite you to love somebody you love. Reach out to them, share them our videos by texting, emailing, social media, and I'll be back with you next Tuesday night.